How did we go into a closed session?
Because of the airbase. Right.
Sure, like if you look at it on the map, it's.
Because it was a designated airbase, and they probably didn't have that section.
Are we good? Call this regional council meeting to order. Developing meaningful relations with our Indigenous neighbors is a priority of the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality. As such, we are collaborating with First Nations government and Indigenous organizations to develop a respectful and meaningful territorial acknowledgement. This work also presents an opportunity to learn more about the culture and history of the Indigenous peoples of our region. Please be advised that tonight's meeting is available for the public to attend virtually and is being streamed and recorded. Should virtual attendees wish to address council during either the public comment period or the question and answer period, use the raise hands feature on your webinar controls. When it is your turn and are prompted, unmute your microphone, state your name, and ask your question. Once your question is ended, you'll be muted again. Are there any councillor additions? Councillor Souls.
I'd like to talk about Parker Lake.
Very well. Any other council additions? Any CAO additions?
No, Mayor.
Very well. Can I get a motion, please, to adopt the agenda as amended? Moved by Councillor Andrews. Seconded by Councillor Souls. All those in favor? Carried. Can I get a motion, please, to adopt the minutes of the July 11th, 2022 Regional Council meeting and the special Regional Council meeting of July 11th, 2022? Moved by Councillor Andrews. Seconded by Councillor Gerving. All those in favor? Carried. Are there any virtual attendees who wish to comment on tonight's agenda? Email poll for ratification. A motion that the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality enter into the permanent public transit program active transport fund grant agreement with Infrastructure Canada for $50,000 to support the Northern Rockies Regional Parks and Trails active mobility study. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Penny. All those in favor? Carried. Admin report number 61, council remuneration policy. Ms. McIver.
Thank you, Mayor. So as the report outlines, we, when we were preparing materials for the upcoming nominations for the general election, we realized that there are two historic bylaws that remain in effect just by virtue of the fact that they've never been replaced since our incorporation as a regional municipality. So one is for the former town of Fort Nelson and the former regional district, Northern Rockies Regional District, that at that time regulated council remuneration, which is your annual stipends and travel expenses. Since that time, there's been a number of changes made to the remuneration in past years, as well as different policy decisions guiding travel and the expenses related to that. Those have been made by resolution, which they've come into effect following that resolution, but really the only way to change a bylaw is with another bylaw. So we thought it might be timely to update those things so that going into the next term, they're effectively a policy instead of a bylaw, and then that supports the practice of amendment by resolution as council sees fit. So, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, so there is a draft policy there for council's consideration. It just summarizes basically where you're currently at with your remuneration. And in preparing that policy, we did come across the UBCM Council and Board Remuneration Guide, which provides some framework for councils to basically conduct their review of remuneration typically once every term. So there's some best practices that we've integrated to the draft policy following that guide.
Thank you. Are there any comments on this? Councillor Gerben.
I have a comment on the draft bylaw. I'm just under benefits. It says enrollment is pending eligibility, as well as a minimum amount of elected official applicants. So does that have to be there? What if there's only one council person that wants to enroll? Does that mean that that council person wouldn't be able to enroll in it because there is, what's the minimum amount?
I think it's not per council. I think it's for UBCM to offer that plan. So province-wide, they need a max or minimum amount of enrollments to offer the plan. So it's not just relying on enrollments from the Northern Rockies, it's relying on enrollments across the province to those who are offered it for UBCM to offer that plan. Do you see what I'm saying?
So I do understand what you're saying. I'm just trying to make the connection because we are enrolled as NRM council members in our own plan. It isn't in a UBCM plan, right?
It is through that UBCM plan.
It's a group.
It just happens to be the same carrier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So do we know what the minimum amount is, or that has to be in there because that's part of the, okay, thanks.
Any other comments? Councillor Andrews.
I like at the end of this policy, you've got a review portion in here. And I like that you've got the policy reviewed in the 3rd year of each council term. I think that's a good practice that we should probably keep up on.
Any further comments? Councillor Souls.
Just regarding remuneration, and it's the level of remuneration in our particular circumstances. It's never apples to apples, in my opinion, when you actually compare our regional role to the municipal roles of equal sized communities elsewhere. When we sit around the table and do our homework at home and read Stantec reports and so on around caribou survival strategy, I don't know any municipality that's dealing with those kind of things. I don't know any municipality that is dealing with a lot of the things, the meetings with industry, doing studies on resources such as Aspen Resource, studies that we've done over the years. There's many, many things that we do that are actually closer related to what we would be dealing with in a municipal or in a regional context, but because they are part of our mandate and part of our, I'm glad they are, thank you very much. But the fact is we have a much broader role as councillors. I think just for all of the councillors here, when you ever, like lots of you have been at various meetings, NCLGA, UBCM, take note of that when you sit in discussions, and you'll notice that we're different. We have a different role than the normal. So anyway, I just think that should be acknowledged just as a part of the narrative of councillors here, so that partly because when we do have elections, which are upcoming, so on, you need to actually have that as part of the job description, or at least have it visible, so that new council members will actually recognize that there's more to it than a normal scenario.
Thank you for that, Councillor Souls. Any further comment? Very well. Can I get a motion that the council remuneration policy be adopted as presented, and that the council remuneration policy be adopted, or I'm sorry, that's all. Moved by Councillor Penny, seconded by Councillor Andrews. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Administration report number 62, 4th quarter grant and aid. Ms. McIver.
So this one's fairly simple. We had one application for the 4th quarter grant and aid intake from Women of Industry. As you'll read, they met the eligibility requirements, and the recommendation is to approve it in principle.
Do I have a mover for that? Moved by Counselor Penny, seconded by Counselor Andrews. All those in favor? Carried. Admin report number 63, renewal of the lease for the Fort Nelson Play School. Ms. McIver.
Thank you. So, as council will recall, you had this conversation last year this time, approximately, and their lease is coming due at the end of August. They'd like to extend the lease for another period of time on similar terms. So, ultimately, that's up for council to discuss and determine.
Any comments? Counselor Gerwin.
Did they indicate how many years they would like the agreement for? Or I'm just thinking with the possible changes, maybe looking at just a 1-year lease for now would be appropriate.
Ms. McIver, did they?
Sorry, no, I was shaking my head, but no, they didn't indicate any specific term at all.
And what was the previous term?
1 year.
1 year. Counselor Andrews.
Yeah, I agree with what Counselor Goering was saying with the potential changes. I would make a recommendation for option 1 with 1 year.
Okay. Moved by Counselor Andrews, seconded by Counselor Gerwin, that the lease be entered into for a 1-year term. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Bylaw number 205, 2022 Fire Protection Service Area Amendment, Fire Protection Service Area, McConaughey Creek Road West. Ms. McIver.
So this is just up for adoption. Council gave first, second, and third readings at the July meeting. We were accepting petitions up to July 15th, and we received none.
Thank you.
We received none, sorry.
Motion, please, to adopt that. Moved by Counselor Soul, second by Counselor Andrews. All those in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 206, 2022, repeal of the town and regional district council's remuneration. Ms. McIver?
Yep, so further to the policy that council just discussed and adopted, this bylaw repeals those other 2 bylaws. So in typical bureaucratic fashion, you have to have a bylaw to repeal other bylaws. So that's what this accomplishes.
Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Counselor Andrews, second by Counselor Souls. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Correspondence, letter from Michael Skinner, Fairness Officer, ICBC, lack of access to ICBC Skills Road testing in Fort Nelson, BC. Northern Rockies Regional Municipality letter to Rob Fleming, Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure, the Nahanni Wood Bison in the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality, and a letter from Rob Cheyenne, President of the Fort Nelson Rocky Gun Club, read Justin Trudeau's announcement to prohibit the sale, purchase, or transfer of handguns, and the letter from Michael Pickup, Officer of the Auditor General BC, request for performance audit of the Northern Health Authority. Are there any comments on any of these correspondence?
Yeah. Is council going to reply back to Rob James, the Fort Nelson Rod and Gun Club's letter? I mean, they wrote it to mayor and council, so I think we should reply back.
As a matter of fact, I think he asked individuals what the individual councillor's position was on this as well. I don't know if any of you have replied to Mr. Chain or you want to have a discussion on this, but I'm certainly not in favor of prohibiting handguns or rifles in the Northern Rockies. It's my position.
I second that.
Councillor Penny.
I hadn't responded yet because I wanted to have a conversation
Yeah.
here
Yeah.
before I move forward. I'm like-minded as both of you have said. I'm not in favor of these new laws.
Councillor Andrews.
As an avid hunter and gun owner, I oppose all of Justin Trudeau's announcements.
Very well, then Councillor Goering.
So does that mean you're wanting us to respond individually, or are we gonna
We
respond?
can respond together, request that a letter from council be written that we are opposed to the handgun ban of Justin Trudeau. Yeah, I think the sentiment around the table is pretty clear. Is that enough direction for, all right, thank you. Any other comments on the correspondence? Oh, sure. Moved by Councillor Andrews, seconded by Councillor Penny. All those in favor? Carried. Any other comments on any correspondence?
I'm glad that the bison made the newspaper. There you go.
Received for information, council information package, July 13th, council information package, July 20th, council information package, July 27th, and council information package of August 3rd, all of 2022. Received for information. Councillor Souls, additions to the agenda, Parker Lake.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a few my own observations. It's actually, I find it really refreshing when you find an individual, usually an individual who's really passionate about bringing some kind of benefit to the municipality. I really like that. As far as framework and who has what jurisdiction in and over Parker Lake or any part, we actually have a real shortage, as was mentioned in his communication, a real shortage of water access close to town. And I want to remind us as a council, I don't really have an action in mind at this point, but I want to remind us that as municipal leaders, one of the beauties of being an elected municipal leader is that municipalities are allowed to have an opinion about what goes on in their municipality. Whereas if a park is in a regional district, it's under complete jurisdiction of the province, and therefore the people don't have a say on what goes on it in the same way as you do as a municipality. So because Parker Lake is within our municipality, and because we have public interest in Parker Lake, then we as a community can have an opinion regarding the future of and the operation of and the jurisdiction of Parker Lake and our use of it or other uses. I would encourage you to read the community charter that have in the section regarding municipal parks, because actually I went over this back when we were talking with the province when they were implementing changes to the Rocky Mountain Park, the management of it. And they were unaware that their park was inside of our municipality. The people who were actually operationally working on it, when I asked them how come this hadn't come to our table, the province, this is a provincial group, were unaware that they were in the municipality. Well, we can forgive their unawareness because there's lots of our own people in our community that don't realize what the regional municipality is. But the fact remains that once that was brought out, then we had back door where they eventually came and talked to us regarding that. I think that it's important that we remind whoever, especially in a case like this where we have a close water body where there's been more than one, but particularly one local, that it's actually working toward making it a place to meet and to greet and to have a campfire and to have a dock that you can go out on the lake with a kayak and so on. And I think that that's commendable. We should be in support of that, and we should have discussions with the province reminding them that that park is in our municipality.
Thank you. Councillor Gerwing.
So I don't know if it's different because it's a rec site as opposed to like a park. I don't know what that difference is, but I feel very strongly that that site gets a phenomenal use. When we wanted to upgrade, not even upgrade, when we wanted to maintain the road, we had to go to rec sites to get permission. When I wanted to do a boardwalk project, an accessible boardwalk project, I was denied. So, because you have to, we have no control, right? Like we have, And well, we don't there. And there was a big, huge sinkhole in the middle of what we're using as a parking lot. And Parks and Rec didn't come in and fix that. It was there one day and gone the next day. And now they're threatening legal action. And I don't know. I think, and I've said for years that I think we should look into what taking Parker Lake over would mean for residents and taxpayers. Like, is it worth it? I mean, I go there like at 3 or 4 times a week, and there are a lot of people using that for a variety of reasons. So, and yeah, and then the deck that they, not deck, sorry, wrong word, the dock that they replaced the old dock with, it doesn't necessarily meet the needs of most of the users. You know, the other night I was there and a plane landed there. It's a great place to be, right?
Yep.
So, but it's the person that put the comforts in there, because there is nothing there. You have people that camp there, and there's like one ratty old picnic table. There's no benches. There's nowhere to sit. There's no amenities at all there. So in the absence of comforts, people are going to create their own. So I think that I would encourage council to think about that as well. If the comforts that are created are not what is wanted out there, then perhaps we should be, or Parks and Rec should be supplying some comforts.
Any other comments? Mr. Barry.
I just like to clarify a couple of things, just so there's no misunderstandings in terms of what we can or can't do as a municipality. And I appreciate Councillor Souls, your comments and stuff, but the reality is as a regional municipality, we're unique that we're the only regional municipality in BC, but we're basically the same as a district municipality would be. We have the same powers essentially, plus some, I'll say, in terms of responsibilities as a regional district. We basically have the ability to operate as a town, which no longer exists as a town. It's just a community. The town of Fort Nelson is no longer a legal entity. And the previous regional district, they basically combined as basically a district municipality, which gives us the ability to operate as both. But in terms of additional powers, with the exception of things like the ability to approve subdivisions, and we look after the rural roads and things, in terms of what we can or can't do on Crown land or provincially owned property, we don't have any additional powers that way from a regional district. So in this case, for example, the Parker Lake area is a Parks and Rec site. That's not saying that if council wish, we could investigate opportunities to take over or whatnot. But in terms of what we have from a jurisdiction perspective, we don't have any different jurisdiction. It's in a waterway. So even if we owned it or operated it, we'd still have the requirements and the regulations specific to operate in a waterway. And then, because we're seeing that right now, I mean, we own a bridge across the Toad River, and we can't do work on the bridge because we have to work in the waterway. We're not going to get a permit until probably next year to do so. For example, right now have that bridge going to an area where the road's washed out, and that's Crown land, and we have to wait for that whole process to work out. So just wanted to clarify that, so it wasn't like a misunderstanding in the community that we actually have any additional jurisdiction in that area, and that's the reason why we had to get permission to maintain the road. So that I can't remember what the particular section was in order to get permission. Similarly, a couple of years ago, we were requested very firmly to remove the bin at Beaver Lake, the dumpster that was there, because it's not something that's part of rec sites. And even though it was being paid for by us and there for a number of years to just assist with the garbage that sometimes would accumulate there. So those, we didn't really have much of a leg to stand on when they said, no, you must move it up, otherwise we could do this. So that said, creates some challenge. That does not, it's not as simple as us as a regional municipality going in there and saying, no, we can do this now. That's great.
Councillor Souls.
I would just like to stress though that the focus on the difference between a regional district and the municipality. Municipality is allowed to voice its opinion, and that's what we're for. We can voice our opinion. We can say, look, this lake is right on the edge of our community. Many of our people are using it. Many of us want to see it developed in such a way that we can use it, and we recommend, or we ask that you come to the table and let's sit down together and figure out a way, because the people of Fort Nelson want to use the lake regardless of whether it's a rec site owned by the province or whether it's whether it's municipal. That would be irrelevant to most of the people. Point is that if that's our opinion, we can talk about our opinion and bring that forward to the relevant agencies.
Thank you. Any other comments? I guess one of the things is it's an ecological reserve, and there's probably a whole bunch of things that go into that. No, it's not. And we do need aquatic recreation near town. And I don't believe that they've done an adequate job of providing the comforts down there that they should have. But so long as it's owned by forestry and the rec sites, people can't just go down there and start putting things on the property that the rec sites don't want any more than somebody could come to one of our parks and start putting things there that we thought were hazardous. I think there's nothing wrong with us going to Parks and Recs and asking for that they upgrade that park because of the use. I think that's a good idea. And there's nothing wrong with us looking at it and considering whether or not we, in the long term, want to take that park over and do something with it. But in the meantime, people putting things down at that recreational site, I sympathize a little bit with forestry because they are the ones ultimately that are going to be liable for any accidents, and they have to have control of it just the same as we have to have control of our properties and how we administer them. So all good points, and maybe council sometime in the future would, like to consider maybe taking that site over. I think that's something that could be considered. Have to look at costs and what everything is involved in it. Councillor Gerbing.
I'd like to make a motion, whereas council opens a dialogue with Parks and Rec around Parker Lake usage.
Very well. All those in favor? Carried. Is there any more discussion? Very well.
Thank you.
Councillor reports. Are there any councillor reports?
Yep.
Councillor Gerbing.
So as everybody had very busy July, crazy. July 26th met with Northern Health Viva Swanson, who is the Northeast Advisor, Leadership Development, Northeast Corporate Services, who's investigating and piloting childcare options for Northern Health employees. We had a very fruitful discussion around potential partnership development associated with licensed childcare and funding options. So her and I will continue the dialogue and start bringing in some other partners within our community and see where that ends up. July the 28th, I traveled to Fort St. John to attend the Health Roundup organized by Dan Davies. In attendance were Dan, Kevin Falcon, Shirley Bond, Mayor Ackerman, Mayor Fraser, Chair Sperling, and representatives from Northern Health Stabilization Program, Save Our Northern Seniors, Doig First Nation, DCOH, not sure, Salvation Army, and 2 family doctors from Fort St. John. We had an informative roundtable conversation highlighting the challenges faced by each segment represented. The theme of my presentation was, of course, equitable access to healthcare services. I presented an overview of our current reality, including the lab challenges, maternity, ultrasound, the realities of cancer care for NRM residents, virtual care advances and challenges, and emergency transportation issues, and also opportunities. I also presented the roundtable with our statistical data as to the number of specialty referrals and associated costs borne by residents. And I wanted to highlight the activities that we have undertaken to date to try to achieve equitable access to healthcare services and presented a very long list of activities. My intent was to drive home the point that we know no one is coming to save us, and we need the resources and the independence to figure out the how, the what, the where, and the when for our residents. I ran out of time, so I was unable to share the two personal impact stories that I wanted to share, but Kevin Falcon requested my notes, and so I left them with him. So I'm hoping him and Shirley Bond read them. August the 4th, I attended the Downtown Revitalization Workshop, which was really not well attended, but Krista and Urban Systems are looking at ways of soliciting feedback outside of the workshop format. There is a survey, so if you haven't filled it in yet, please do so. And there will be a virtual workshop in the fall, so watch for that. And August 5th, I attended the meeting with CN Rail organized by Dan Davies. And that day I also attended a downtown walkabout with Krista and Urban Systems, Mayor Foster, and a member of our community. Discussions were around what we felt was working, what wasn't, our hopes and our dreams for the future.
Thank you, Councillor Gerwing. On August 3rd, I attended the Resource Municipalities Coalition in Mackenzie. Had a very good discussion with Mayor Atkinson, Mayor Ackerman, and Mayor of Taylor, Mayor Fraser. Attended a Zoom meeting with the Honorable Bill Blair, Federal Minister for Public Safety. It centered largely around wildfires and flood protection for the province of British Columbia, and funding that the federal government was going to make available to the province or in conjunction with the province to mitigate effects of climate change and forest fires for communities, including rural communities. I attended the lunch meeting, of course, on August 25th with Minister Josie Osborne at the Woodlands, spoke about the need for efficient rail service in the Northern Rockies, spoke about the challenges around healthcare and challenges around connectivity, as well as the Boreal Caribou Protection Plan, which is in her ministry, and the impact of resource development in the Northern Rockies. When that was finished, I had invited Minister Osborne to get her picture taken at the railhead. So we did go out there and we did get some pictures taken at the furthest north rail in British Columbia. August 2nd, presided over the swearing in of the board of the Chamber of Commerce. August 3rd, we repeated the swearing in of the 3 board members who were unable to make it the previous day. And I attended the library Chalk and Freezy, and I want to comment on the artwork of both Councillor Gerwing and Councillor Andrews. Absolutely stunning work. If you give up your career in counseling, I think, or as a counselor, I think you've got a great future in artwork, particularly the Canadian flag of Councillor Andrews was absolutely exceptional. I attended the Downtown Revitalization Workshop at the Rec Center on August, I'm not sure, I think it was August the 4th. A meeting with Dan Davies, Bob Zimmer, CN, to discuss the continued rail service and the efforts to upgrade the rail line in the Northern Rockies. It's a Zoom meeting here at the town with various councillors. Councillor Gerwing was here, Councillor Andrews, and Councillor Souls. Both Councillor Gerwing and Councillor Andrews by Zoom meeting. Joined Councillor Gerwing with Urban Systems and our staff on a walk around the commercial core of the town. And as Councillor Gerwing has mentioned, we discussed many things about improvements that we could make to the downtown core. Spoke with Brian Fair and Dave Nicolishan on further advocacy regarding the application for federal funding through the Trades Corridor Federal Funding Initiative. Mr. Nicolishan and Mr. Fair both stated that they had good input from the federal government. They seem to be running into a few problems with the provincial government, and said we would be glad to help advocate on behalf of getting our rail line some much needed funding. So we will be doing that. I had dinner with 24 young people from Texas, biking for a cure for cancer. They're going from Austin to Anchorage. It was delightful to listen to Americans' perspective on British Columbia, how much they love this place, and very curious about healthcare here, and very sad stories about families in the United States that do not have healthcare and are afflicted with cancer, and some really, really moving stories about how difficult it is, and made me truly appreciate how lucky I am and we all are to be Canadians. And that was my report. Is there anything else? Very well. I'll declare this meeting adjourned.